This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbot.
Hello. Well, let's get back to it.
Conservative MP Dan Poulter has defected to Labour. The ex-health minister, who works part-time as a doctor, said he found it increasingly difficult to look his NHS colleagues in the eye while being a Tory. He claimed the Conservatives were not prioritising public services, saying they no longer had a compassionate view about supporting the more disadvantaged in society. You've got to be kidding me. He's just come to that conclusion? Has he been under general anaesthetic for the past 14 years? Because that's how long he's been a Tory MP, and he's only just noticed they lack compassion? How about competence? Did he notice any competence shortfall since 2010? I mean, there was hair-brained hair stack.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
There was the Liz bot.
Absolutely.
And Titchy now has been the actual prime bloomin' minister for what seems like eons, and Dr. Dan has only now had it up to here.
Oh, fabulous.
Dr. Dan added that he had no animus towards Rishi Sunak, but urged the Prime Minister to call a general election as soon as possible. Which sounds like animus to me. I mean, it sounds ever so slightly animus-ish, don't it? Dr. Dan said, I found it increasingly difficult to look my NHS colleagues in the eye, my patients in the eye, and my constituents in the eye, with good conscience. He said, the difficulty for the Conservative Party is that the party I was elected into valued public services. It had a compassionate view about supporting the more disadvantaged in society. I must have missed that Conservative Party. When was that? No idea. Labour leader Skier welcomed the news. He wrote on social media. Oh, God, what the kids use? I saw a clip of a past Prime Minister this afternoon, and it was a revelation. He looked like a proper grown-up. It was Gordon Brown. And he was doing a speech, what the Labour Party done for us? And it was riveting. Brought an entire hall to their feet. And he looked like the leader of a country. Not a sort of a bank branch's middle manager, or pantomime act.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
This is what we've had lately. I mean, it's just been so dreary. Whatever happened to serious politicians, for crying out loud? Fingers crossed for Skier. The jury's out. I mean, at least he doesn't. Yeah, at least there seems to be something to him. I mean, I know that what Skier has got is it's practically see-through. He opines so little, just standing there in the headlights, frightened to go one way or the other. But at least he doesn't seem like a joke. Skier welcomed the news. He wrote on social media, lols, and with a happy smiley face. No, he didn't. He wrote, it's fantastic to welcome Dr. Dan Poulter, MP, to today's changed Labour Party, but he'd better bring one of them folding seats because the benches around where I sit are going to be chocker come the next election. That is what Keir Starmer said. No, he didn't. He actually said, it's time to end the Conservative chaos, turn the page and get Britain's future back.
Oh, no.
He actually said that. He's really going with that phrase, let's get Britain's future back? I mean, it's just so bad on so many levels. It's clumsy. It's more than 3 words. And it doesn't even make any sense. Let's get Britain's future back? What does that mean? Skier said, I'm really pleased that Dan has decided to join us on this journey. Journey? What journey? Where are you going? You're not going by train, are you? Because you might want to check the strike dates, just saying. Dr. Dan confirmed that he will sit as a Labour MP until the next election, when he will then stand down from his role, which is just weird, isn't it? I mean, I know we don't technically elect the party leader or the party. We elect our representatives, but that's not what people think when they go into the plywood booth. They think, what party do I like? And then they vote for whoever happens to have their name by the logo of their choice. So his electorate wanted a Tory, and now they've got a Labour. Which doesn't really work as a phrase, does it? It's odd. I mean, you can say they've got a Conservative, but you can't say they've got a Labour, which sounds pretty discriminatory to me. Announcing that he was defective, Dr. Dan said that Rishi Sunak could call a general election as soon as possible. Any time within the next 10 seconds, Rishi. Time's up. He wrote, I believe it is now incumbent on me as a medical practitioner, passionately committed to our NHS, to throw my weight behind the Labour Party in its determination to ensure we again have a health service of which we can be proud and which best meets the needs of every patient. He said, it is abundantly clear to me that the Labour Party alone has the will and the trust to restore and reform the NHS. That's why we need a Labour government and why I believe Keir Starmer must lead that government as our next Prime Minister. Well, welcome to the world, Dr. Dan. I mean, you only took 14 years to come to that conclusion. What kept you? And Christian Wakeford, he also defected to Labour in 2022. And then Lee Anderthal, he joined Reform last month. How's that party going, by the way?
We've got a few idiots in our party.
That's what I thought, yeah. 64 Conservative MPs have announced that they are either standing down from the Commons or not seeking re-election next time out. Ex-cabinet ministers planning to step inside include, but are not limited to, Sajid Super Saj Manjav, Crazy Kwarteng, Ben Wallace, Chris Failing-Grayling, Alok Sharma and Theresa May. Oh dear, what a pity. Never mind. We're just going to have to get along without them.
Bye-bye.
0345 6060 973. Text and tweets and emails from last night. There's a boatload. Jerry, I was asking for slogans for the Conservative Party because Labour are going with "Let's get our future back." It's just the worst, absolutely the worst political slogan I think I've ever heard in my life. Let's get our future back. It's a sort of mashup between Donald Trump's "Make America Great Again," which actually was Adolf Hitler's phrase. But shh, don't pass that on. Let's make America great again. It sounds a bit like that. Let's get our future back again. Let's get our great future back again. Let's make our future great again. It's just terrible. All of these people need better advice. I'll do it. So anyway, I threw this out yesterday, and I want to know what your top tip for a Tory slogan would be. Your pain, our gain, says Jerry. That's pretty good. I mean, it's 4 words. It has to be 4 words, maximum 3 preferable. It's the rule of 3. Pat says, I have a more reality-based slogan. Conservatives, we are not done with you yet. Chris says, I grew up in the 50s and the 60s, and I cannot believe how much the world has changed. I sometimes think I have woken up in a parallel universe, because nothing that happens in the world seems to make any sense these days. Wayne says, have you noticed that Titchy suit size says boats and not small boats? Well, I think I mentioned this yesterday. Yeah, he's forever going on about the stop the boats.
The country's priority is to stop the boats.
Stop the boats, not stop the small boats, but just stop the boats. Any old boat you like. He's anti-submariner. Obi says, did you see that they have tried to blame Meghan for the horses running around London? It's actually got to a comical stage now. The right-wing tabloid press's obsession with Meghan Sparkles and Hazza. I mean, they're going on about his medals now. Oh, well, he shouldn't have worn that medal because he was given I just scanned the story. I wasn't really that interested because it's just all so silly at this point. Every single thing that is wrong with this country is the fault of Meghan Bloomin' Markle. No! Yeah, thanks a lot, Meghan. You see what you've done with your stupid jam? They were trying to get her on woke jam. Yes, that's right. I'm not making that up. Her jam is woke. And they were going on about Hazard was giving out medals to Americans. I don't really know, and I don't really care. But they were saying, well, you know, he was wearing about 5 medals on his chest. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but he actually did fighting, yes? Like a couple of tours, at least, where he didn't have to go. I mean, he could have just spent his time here playing polo, couldn't he? Riding around in his Range Rover, smiling and waving. I mean, that's what we pay him for. But no, he went over there and he did his bit. Appreciate it, Hazard.
Thank you.
And so he's got medals, and so he wore his medals. And they say, oh, it's absolute outrage. For whatever reason, I've got no idea. Because he was giving medals out to Americans and he was wearing British medals at the time, or some stupid thing like that. And they were saying, well, you know, he should have taken those off, and it's just disgraceful that he's presenting himself in public in that manner with all those medals on his chest. Somewhat forgetting the point about when King Charles, Chaz, when he gets dressed up in all his finery, he's got so many medals on him, if he sits down, he needs help to get back up again. He daren't walk past a magnet for fear of being stuck to it forever. And have you ever seen them in their Royal Garter gear? I mean, it's just too silly. It looks like Selfridge's haberdashery department has thrown up on them. But no, they're getting them about that. I mean, it's... God. And I assume that you're joking, Obi, about blaming Meghan for the horses running around London, although I'm sure that they probably tried really hard, bent themselves into pretzel knots, trying to figure out some way it's her fault. Kath texts, a miracle. I have found an NHS dentist. Well, she's still got some teeth left to show them. Isn't that great? We'll count that as a success. We found one. Only 15 minutes into the show. 0345 6060 973. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbot, LBC.
This is LBC. This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84850.
You don't know what you're talking about, do you?
Absolutely no idea whatsoever. Tanya texts, I have a bus pass, a senior rail card, a blue badge and a passport, and I still won't be voting Conservative. Well, their little scheme has come to naught with you then, Tanya. And apropos of nothing at all, here's a couple of people who want to tell me what Rishi Dishy looks like. God, you remember when people used to call him Dishy Rishi? Oh, God. Vomitous. Anyway, that seems like eons ago, don't it? Dishy Rishi, people used to call him. We used to feel positively about Dishy Rishi. Not no more. Arthur says, Rishi Sunak looks like Troy Tempest from Stingray. Well, that's just a fact. They're both wooden and have the emotional range of a house brick. And Pam says, when I see Rishi Sunak, a slug springs to mind. My friend pictures Kermit the Frog. What creature do you see? Well, Pam, it depends what kind of mood he's in. If he's in one of those moods where he's trying to tell us how much he cares about us lot...
The little people.
Not leprechauns. Then he looks like a little hurt puppy dog. Oh. But when he gets poked by Keir Starmer and Skier lands one on him at question time, he sort of turns into a snarling rat-like creature. That's not an offensive thing to say, is it? I'm just stating the facts, Jack, as I see them. Ricky says, hey, Ricky, you're so fine, you blow my mind. Hey, Ricky. Ricky says, as a last resort to stop the boats, I heard they're going to allow illegal immigrants in and just send the actual boats to Rwanda. Well, that's a good idea. Northwich. Hello, David.
Hello.
David.
Liz Truss.
Liz Truss, yes.
The interview on LBC that she did.
When was that?
Oh, it's about a week ago now, I think.
Oh, a week ago, right.
With Ian Dale.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just fascinated on your take on it because...
Well, I haven't seen it, unfortunately, David.
No, I just caught some clips of it on YouTube.
Ah, yes, on YouTube. Mm-hmm.
And I thought you being a colleague, part of LBC...
Well, I've got to sleep sometime.
I know.
You think because I work here, I listen to the station 24 hours a day?
No, but I thought you might have had some clause in your contract.
That says I've got to watch Ian Dale interview Liz Truss. No, sadly, if it is in my contract, then I missed that. They need to bring that to my attention.
That says that you're not allowed to bring LBC into disrepute.
Disrepute. Yeah.
Disrepute. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, I didn't. But what was your take? What was your take on it, David?
I thought you were going to do Anwiddicombe then. He interviewed her as if she was a normal person. No, he did, honestly.
Well, that was his first mistake.
No, but he didn't. I mean, I don't know whether he did it to sort of humour her because she's a basket case.
Well, she's a very special and unique person. Let's just leave it at that, shall we?
Or he did it thinking that she is a normal person, in which case there need be a basket case.
Well, I'm not...
So which one would you go with?
I don't think normal is a description that we can use in when we are referring to Liz Truss. She is more than normal, most certainly. Yeah, I'm not saying she's abnormal. I'm just saying that she's not your everyday, ordinary, average person.
No, but he did interview her as though she was normal.
Right. And so which bit in particular grated on you so?
Well, it is the whole thing, really, because...
Oh, everything.
He never even said, oh, do you appreciate the fact that most people in the country think you're a basket case?
Right. But that's just you, though, David.
So it's only me that thinks she's a basket case?
Did he introduce her to any item in the salad chiller?
Yeah, they talked about the lettuce, yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Did she express contrition? Did she express any sort of regret about any of her actions up to this point in her life?
No, she's quite proud of them.
She continued to assert that the only reason that her blissfully brief premiership failed was because of lefty woke bankers.
Yeah, but it's more extreme than that, which is why I say basket case, because she even suggested that the lettuce was part of the deep state. It was a deep state. You're laughing.
It was a deep state lettuce. Well, that fits in with everything that I would have expected from an interview with Liz Truss. Yeah, the deep state lettuce makes perfect sense to me, David. And thanks for bringing that to my attention. Appreciate it. The phrases for the Conservative Party, these are all suggestions from yesterday. I'm just gradually getting my way through them. Paul says the Tory slogan, making nightmares reality. Stan says, for billionaires only. What's weird is that I can't remember what the exact demographics, but I think it's more or less like the poorer you are, the more likely you are to have voted Conservative in the last election, and the richer you are, the less likely you are. It's like the entire world is upside down and back to front. Andy says if the PM loses his seat at the next election, he will become only the second UK Prime Minister to achieve this record. Arthur Balfour is currently the only Prime Minister to have been voted out of office and constituency. John Major, on the other hand, was the only Conservative to increase his majority in 1997. Trivia, but in the coming election, it's important stuff that everyone will want to know, says Andy. I'm not sure about that. I mean, that word want is carrying a lot of weight there, isn't it? Everyone will want to know. Not sure about that. And Tony says, Nick, this is from last night. He says, Nick, you just caused me to get off the train at Stockport instead of Manchester, and I had to sprint back into the station and jump on again, and I'm knackered now. Oh, I see. It's my fault. Let's have South Norwood. Hello, Philip.
Good evening, Nick.
Yes, Philip.
I was very interested in the story about the horses, because some years ago I was a bus conductor, and we reached the terminus, and we were going to have a cup of tea, and suddenly a lady turned up with a young horse, and she asked if the horse could have a look inside the driver's cab.
What?
Yeah, it works out. It's a good story. And so my driver said yes, and she explained, Nick, that the young horse hadn't been out on the road before, and what it was, that if he was familiar with something, he he didn't react when he was going along a public road.
But why would he want to look inside the driver's cab?
I suppose because the next thing she asked was, would the driver start the engine up? You see.
Now, was this one of these old clattery Routemaster buses?
Yeah, well, it was the pre-runner of that, Nick, the RT.
What was that?
The RT was the sort of, with the platform at the back.
Yeah, isn't that a Routemaster?
No, that was the Routemaster followed. I was on the buses for 38 years, Nick. What it was, the RT was the forerunner of the RMs, you see.
And the RM is the Routemaster, right.
Yeah. So it was a sort of I don't know how to describe it.
It was a bit thinner and less robust looking.
Exactly.
I get it. Yeah.
And so he started the engine up, and of course the horse, but as the lady thanked us very much, she even wrote a sentence to the garage thanking us for our help. The horse became familiar, and I think as the thing, from what I understand about these
I definitely
horses,
thought you were going to say a friend.
I think the thing was, Nick, that these horses, the noises they heard were unfamiliar to them.
Right.
And caused them to bolt.
You know, I as a child, I wanted to be a bus conductor because they had, on the bus that you were on, probably, they had those round buttons that you pressed that was a silver circle with a red button in the middle of it. I so wanted to press that for a living. I wanted to do that.
I was very lucky, Nick. I started in 1962, and we had two different kind of buses on routes that I was on. We had the RT, and we also had the RF, which is a single-decker. You can imagine in those days there was a driver and conductor.
Yeah.
So that we also worked on the longest bus route in London at the time, which was from Old Coulston right the way through to West Hampstead, 21.4 miles.
Blimey.
It took 4 hours to do a complete... 4 hours to do a complete rounder.
The best sound I ever heard in my life, with the possible exception of a Spitfire engine or the engine of a Mercedes AMG, which sounds pretty much the same, is the ticket machine that you guys used to have around your... I don't know what it's called.
It was called the Gibson.
Right, so you put the price in and then you wind that handle around. God, I just loved that sound.
It was. They weren't heavy or anything. And
they looked really heavy. It looked like it would give you a crooked neck.
Oh, no, but they were wonderful machines. I mean, I had one for the whole of the 15 years I was a conductor, and it was, it was a good job, because you had the breeze blowing in from the back with the open platform. Well,
that's the key, isn't it? The open platform at the back. What do you think of those, sadly we're not going to get any more, but the Thomas Heatherwick buses that were sort of like... the old ones, and it had the platform on the back, and it's got 3 doors and 2 stairs.
I know. It was crazy. I mean, the first time I went on it, and I thought, I don't get it. Can it go off the back? Can I go off the front?
You go anywhere you like.
I mean, because we had the bendy buses, didn't we? Did you ever go on those?
That's better forget those. No, I think concentrating on those Thomas Heatherwick buses. I don't know what they're called.
I'm sure either.
He's the designer.
Yeah.
They're just a marvellous thing to look at, as the old Routemaster buses were a marvellous thing to look at. There's still some running on, I think it's a heritage route in London.
You do get,
you really don't want to get behind one of those, because the smoke that they pour out the back is just awful.
Imagine. Have you ever been on the O-Bahn, Nick?
On the what?
The O-Bahn, O-B-A-H-N. Now, the O-Bahn is a type of bus. It's a German invention, and it's mainly in Australia. What it is...
I haven't been there.
Oh, I didn't know. I thought you'd been down under. No, what it is, Nick, with this bus in Adelaide, you get on the bus and you go about half a mile outside of Adelaide, and then you go on your own track. It's a bus track.
It's a bus, like a bus tram type of thing.
A bus tram system, and you go along, and the driver can take his hands up and wave at people because he's on his track, and then he comes into a bus stop type bus station, and then goes back on the track again.
This is something I will never see with my own eyes, because I'm just not going to go to Australia because it's too blooming far away. And what's there when you get there? Nothing. Heat and insects the size of a Volkswagen. No thanks. No thanks for me. If Philip, got to go, but thanks for that. 0345 6060 973. You can text 84850. Email nicka@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbott, LBC. It's 10:30, the news headlines with Tim Daly.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Hello? Number, please. Trying to connect you. Sorry to keep you waiting.
Yes, sorry to keep you waiting, Sanjeevan. You are in Hemel Hempstead, but you know that.
Yes, I do know that, Nick, and very good evening on this very cold and damp evening.
Well, not that cold. It's it's damp, but it's not that cold. Come on, let's not get carried away.
All right, you're right. A couple of points on the Sunak.
Yeah.
On the slimy, sneaky Sunak. I think what he's doing is he's using his position to shore up the contracts for his father-in-law, AI. You know, the artificial intelligence, all the technology companies around the world.
There's absolutely no evidence that is what he is doing.
Oh, no, one thing, that's right, that's my observation.
What you mean? That's what you think? You think so little of him that you would expect that is what he is doing.
But I base it on this. You know, there was a podcast by the Rory Stewart, I think. He used to be Rory Stewart and Alistair Campbell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they were discussing on some podcast that all he's doing, why he's not addressing the concerns of the electorate in this country in terms of their day-to-day living.
Yeah.
Where's
he gone? Oh, my God, talk about the deep state. Sanjeevan just got cut off right in the middle of his little diatribe there. I'll just wait for a moment, see if he comes back. Can we be reconnected? Apparently not. Well, that's highly suspicious, that is. Maybe somebody's listening to this. 0345 6060 973. I would draw your curtains right now if I were you. Somebody is definitely taking an interest in what you're saying. Mary says, as far as Tory slogans go, how about going, going, gone? Carlo suggests Money for Nothing by Dire Straits. That should be Titchy Suit Size's Walking On music, Money for Nothing, which is, that would fit perfectly. I mean, we've given them our money, and what have we got for it? That should be our question from now until the end of time. Where's all the money gone? You know, there's this article in the Daily Telegraph from a person called Matthew Lynn, whose work I am unfamiliar with because the only part of the Daily Telegraph I look at is a crossword on the back and the cartoon on the front. What's in the middle is usually a mystery to me. But there was an article that was drawn to my attention about the difference between France and the UK. And I'll give you a flavour. It said, we have huge levels of government spending in this country. We've got punitive taxes. The state micromanages the economy, offering lavish levels of welfare while constantly racking up more and more debt. OK, so remember this is a Telegraph, so they're not in touch with what the rest of us would call reality. So let's just let that lavish levels of welfare jibe go, OK? He says, true, we don't have a boulangerie on every corner and we don't have riots every weekend, or at least not yet. But in almost every other way, as the chief economist of the World Bank pointed out this week, the British economy has slowly turned into a French tribute act. There's just one catch. While France at least gets results from its sprawling state, the UK seems to get almost nothing. We face a fate far worse than our neighbour on the other side of the channel. French levels of tax and debt combined with practically third world levels of investment and public services. This is the Tory graph. He says it's one of the ironies of the last half-decade that instead of turning into Singapore on Thames or mimicking American dynamism after leaving the European Union, the UK has turned into France instead. But the problem is that while we're increasingly mimicking French public spending strategy, we don't seem to get anything like the same results. It certainly seems to have one redeeming feature in France, government spending. It's effective. On almost every measure you care to look at, the French government machine easily outperforms the British one. Well, this isn't patriotic, is it? Telling us the French are doing everything better than we are. Where's the patriotism there, eh? He wants to go back to where he came from. He don't like it. He says France has a far better health system, combining social insurance with state provision. And while the French are angry that average waiting times to see a GP have risen from 4 days before the pandemic to 10 now, it's far better than this country, where waiting time for a routine appointment is 19 days if you can get to see a doctor at all. If you can get to see somebody in the NHS before you die or are cured. And while you might have to pay to drive on French motorways, they are at least beautifully maintained. Hey, we pay to drive on British motorways, just not directly, mostly, unless you're trying to get past Birmingham without seeing it. Just because you don't get charged at the point of entry onto the motorway doesn't mean you say it's free. But in Paris, you could play snooker on their roads. I just came down a road from Streatham. Every time I go through Streatham,
Warning!
I know something insane is going to happen. Last time I went through there, without a word of a lie, I went past a car that was on its roof in the middle of the road. There's a 20-mile-an-hour limit, and this car had managed to flip itself over. But there's a road that goes from Streatham to Clapham North, sort of like a back road. It's quite wide, and the craters are it looks like a war has been fought on that road. They're not potholes, they are craters. The moon doesn't have craters like they got on that road. And it just gets worse and worse and worse. And it's almost as though that road doesn't exist to the authorities. It just takes a bit of concrete, just fill them in for crying out loud. You could lose your entire car in those potholes. And, of course, when it rains, you can't see them anymore because it just looks wet. You don't know that if you enter it, you might not get back out the other side. It just looks like a shallow puddle, not this chasm that would open up and swallow you whole. But anyway, that's here. In France, not so much. It says France added 320,000 homes to its supply in 2022, and only once in the last 20 years has the net gain dipped below 300,000 annually. In the UK, we added 100,000 fewer units, although the two countries have similar populations. If you ever wondered why that charming holiday home in Provence looks so cheap, that's part of the reason, says Matthew Lynn in the Tory graph. Elsewhere, France has a total of 56 operating nuclear power plants, the result of far-sighted, intelligent industrial planning over many years. Far-sighted and intelligent, Bodger. Any thoughts?
I can't comment on that.
Can't comment on that. We are now buying electricity from France. That's how bad it's got here. They've got 56 operating nuclear power plants. We are, and now they are Europe's largest net exporter of electricity, and we're one of their major customers. By contrast, we've got 9. They've got 56 operating nuclear power plants. He says, Macron has championed artificial intelligence as part of his drive to create a start-up nation, and it looks like paying off. They've got an open-source chat-bot company called Mistral AI.
Affirmative.
Expected to be raising a valuation of $5 billion. We, meanwhile, backed a failed battery manufacturer and a satellite firm that, despite being bailed out by us poor dopes who pay taxes, and touted by Bodger Johnson as a potential rival to Elon Musk's Starlink, ended up merging with a French rival. He says, right now, the UK is heading for the worst of all possible worlds. We have French levels of tax and spending combined with practically third world levels of state delivery. And unless we work out how to change that, we're going to be stuck with permanent stagnation. But you know what? I bet Titchy Suit Size has a plan.
We have a plan, or you just go back to square one. That's why it's so important we stick to this plan, because we have a plan, we put that plan in place, where there is absolutely no plan. Right? We have got a plan, that plan is working. If we stick with it, we can deliver a brighter future for the country. But like my main message is plan, no plan.
His message is to just say the word plan a lot and hope that we don't ask any impertinent questions about what that plan might be. The Prime Minister has been very clear that he has a plan. I don't know what we've done to deserve this, but it must have been really awful. If only I could remember it. Belsize Park. Judy.
Hello.
Judy.
I've got two things to discuss with you.
Go on.
First of all, do you remember on Nick Ferrari's programme when Tom Swarbrick was working as a reporter, he sent him to try and get two horses onto a bus? I only mention this because you've been talking about horses.
Yeah. Why?
I've no idea. You'll have to ask Nick Ferrari. It was something to do with somebody asked Boris Johnson whether you could take a horse on a bus, and Boris said, I don't like saying Boris, it sounds too friendly.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Yeah.
Him, anyway.
Johnson.
Johnson said, I don't see why not, because buses used to be drawn by horses when they were first invented.
Yeah, outside, not inside.
Yeah, and Nick Ferrari said, well, we'll find out tomorrow. And he sent Tom Swarbrick with two horses to try and get on a bus.
And?
The bus driver wouldn't take him.
Wouldn't take him.
No.
Quite right. Here's the information. The Mayor of London, Boris Johnson, was asked if you are allowed to take pets on London buses and responded, I don't see any reason why you can't take pets on buses.
Yeah.
Pets, he said, when pressed if a horse would be allowed, he said, I don't see why not.
Yeah.
Really?
Maybe that tells you a lot about Johnson.
About him, yeah. Good grief. I don't see why not. I can give you several reasons why not.
Right, and before
several huge, steaming reasons.
Before you cut me off, can I tell you my normal thing before we get to the election on Thursday?
Your what?
You know, about me and my... People call it paranoid about the election. They will put your ballot paper number against your electoral roll number, and that way, with computers and such like, they can trace how you vote.
Artificial intelligence.
Affirmative.
Yeah.
I have a campaign going to please query it. I do, and I get thrown out the polling station, but maybe other people might be more polite than me and won't get thrown out.
Do you really get thrown out, like physically heaved from the area?
Not exactly physically,
right.
But when the chief, whoever they are there, is called to remove me,
or you'll be arrested by the law.
Yeah, but I will check back with you next Friday to make sure that you personally raised it as a complaint, because you're a very influential person.
Oh, yeah, that's the thing about me, is I'm influential. Yeah. Simply everybody says so.
Yes.
All right, good work. Thanks a lot, Judy. Don't forget, they're looking at you very, very closely. Scrutinising you, they are. Don't be paranoid, but just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not out to get you. 0345 6060 973. Nick Abbott, LBC.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
And remember, darling, I don't work before 10 in the morning and never after 4:30 in the afternoon.
Those are my strict rules. Sean says, what will the Tory party say when Rwanda decides to return all of those that the UK has deported to Rwanda? Just asking, given the conditions of the joint agreement, says Sean. Sean, we're not sending them to Marks and Spencer's. They can't return them. They can return different ones, but not those ones. Yeah, they don't say much about that. And they don't put a number on it either. But Rwanda is such a safe place that that we can take asylum seekers who are fleeing from Rwanda in fear of their life. But that doesn't mean to say it's not a safe place, because Rishi Sunak has asserted that it is. And we're talking about France, as I was earlier on. Emmanuel Macron has said something about that. He's stuck his French oar in. No! I'll come to that in a minute. But that's true, isn't it? That you go to France on holiday, or even somewhere that is actually in the third world, like Spain, for instance. And everything seems to work there. The health service works, the hospitals are clean. I mean, they're not completely infested with patients who are dripping and oozing and, all of that. Oh. And you can get an appointment when you like, and they've got shiny MRI machines that are ripe and ready to go. And it doesn't take 3 weeks to get a phone call from a doctor will tell you that what you've got is an emergency and you have to go to A&E straight away 3 weeks after it came on. None of that happens. And you can drive places without fear of losing a wheel in a pothole. And there's flowers down the middle of the highway for mile after mile after mile. And everything seems to work, but absolutely nothing works here. Down to the point that if you make and I've said this so many times now, I'll take a phone call on a mobile from somebody in this country. They can be just around the corner, and it sounds as though they're talking to me from the International Space Station. But I'll take a phone call from someone who's 6,000 miles away in America, for instance, and they're coming through loud and clear like a bell. Painful. Where's all the money gone? These are texts and tweets and such from last night. Mary says, the Tory slogan should be going, going, gone. Tom says, it ain't broken till we've done it ourselves. Yeah, only then, only after they've done it can it be described as comprehensively broken. Yeah. Ray says, Conservative slogan, trying our best. Oh, well, that was excruciating, the amount of times that came up when Bodger Johnson was the dear leader.
Yeah. Where
the amount of times that people used to call me and say, oh, as though they were talking about a pet. You know, that caller just some while ago was saying that you didn't want to say Boris because it does sound like, you have a relationship going with him. Ugh. But people used to ring me all the time. Sort of little old lady types. Oh, leave him alone. He's doing his best. You know, like he's 5 and trying to clean up his toys. Austin says, Tory slogan, ever get the feeling you've been cheated? And I think that's a Johnny Rotten line, isn't it?
Rock and roll!
From his pre-butter selling days. Rebecca says, we'll do better. John says, putting people last. Making inequality great again. Guy says, you're not worth it. And Nick says, the Tory slogan in 3 words, don't blame us. Always somebody else's fault. Now, how many more of these have I got? Only 13 pages. Oh, my God. Most of these are from today. I find this absolutely extraordinary that people are so eager to join in, but almost always only by waggling their fingers at their phone screens. Nobody wants to talk using their mouths anymore. I mean, I do whine about this every now and again, but it does seem amazing to me that people have got to the point now, and it didn't take very long. I mean, our smartphones haven't been with us for very long. And the texting feature was an adjunct. When somebody came up with it, I can't remember who it was. It could have been the Apple chap. People said, texting? Why would anybody text? This is a phone. You use it to call people and speak to them like a real human being. And within about 86 seconds, texting had completely taken over the phone element of the phone, and nobody uses that anymore. To the point now that if you are going to call somebody up, you text them first to tell them you're going to call them, as though not to alert them to an incoming phone conversation will freak them out. Simon says, but, I could try to kick against it, but why bother? It's done now. Eventually, human beings, our mouths, if we weren't using them for feeding, they would seal closed within a couple of thousand years. Betcha. Get David Attenborough on the phone. He'll explain it to us. You're not picking up? Keep trying. Simon says, why pay Rwanda as a deterrent when we've got Glasgow for free? Wow. I didn't see that coming. You leave Glasgow alone. Susanna says, my submission for an honest Tory slogan, stop the hopes. Yeah, abandon it, all ye who enter here. Sam says, Tory slogan, our priorities are your priorities, with a big swirly hypnotised swirl on the lectern. Yes. Look deeply into my eyes. Piers says, Tory slogan, let's help ourselves. They certainly have. How many more of these are there? A load. Anonymous text. Giving you what we want. Most of these are quite appropriate. Peter says, killing you softly. Simon says, we know where you live, which is somewhat slightly alarming. And Chris says, stop the votes, which is quite a popular one. Had that several times yesterday. 03, is there any point in me reading out the number? 0345 6060 973. I'm determined to get through last night's because today's, I've got about 10 pages of messages from today alone. And it's not even the end of the first hour yet. Peter says, Conservatives to die for. Anonymous text, it's Corbyn's fault. That's the new Conservative Party slogan. It's Jeremy Corbyn's fault. Yeah, thanks a lot, Uncle Jezza. You see what you've done? Sink Britain with Sunak, says Martin. Not our fault, says Andrew. Kevin says, I just wanted to check that the 5 horses seen galloping through central London were ULEZ compliant. Can you check? Well, I think they have... I think their emissions are too large to be ULEZ compliant. Pretty sure about that. Steve says, I sent my local MP a 3-word slogan for the upcoming election. Is life better? It's worked for the Tories before. Labour's turn. What's worked for the Tories before? You mean they've used it on the Labour Party after they were in power for a little while. Is life better? Well, that's... that should be the question that everybody is asking themselves come the next general election, assuming that we have one and they don't cancel it for our safety. And that does sound like an outrageously silly thing to say, that they would cancel the next general election for our safety. But, there's a lot of outrageously silly things that have happened lately, and that wouldn't be the most of them. Simon says, Brexit has benefits. The EU doesn't have to listen to the UK anymore. Well, I'll get into what Macron said in a bit. Lee said, if Brexit was reversed tomorrow, I'd miss having someone to blame for everything. Yeah, I asked that question yesterday, because before I've said, what are the benefits of Brexit? Nobody can come up with anything at all. So let's flip it around. If your precious Brexit was taken away from you tomorrow, what would you miss? It's about to get much, much worse, by the way. I could get into that a bit later on as well, because they're going to start checks that have been held off for fear of increasing the price of food at the supermarket. Or, as an expert would put it,
we could have cheaper food, clothing and footwear straight away by getting rid of the protectionist anti-trade tariffs that the EU imposes. And it would be very good for the British people, and it would provide certainty. And I think once there's certainty, the country will begin to reunite.
He's an elected representative of the people of this country. Can you believe that?
No.
I mean, really. We've just become a laughingstock now. Cartoon characters we got leading us at the moment. But because he enunciates like that and has that sort of strangulated way of speaking, this entire nation is on its knees doffing its cap. We have been trained so well. Thank you, sir. May I have another? Simon says, I remember when Donald Trump was nothing more than a I've screwed that up. Sorry about that, Simon. He says, I remember when Trump was nothing more than a euphemism for breaking wind.
I know a lot about wind. I know a lot about wind.
Yeah, no doubt. That's what I heard. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nick@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. And I keep forgetting that you can WhatsApp us, baby. It's the same number as the phone. 0345 6060 973. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbot, LBC.
on your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC. This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbot.
You're joking.
Yeah! Dude! Caroline says, if Brexit was cancelled, I would miss queuing for 40 minutes at Frankfurt Airport, as I did last week, while watching the EU passport holders walking straight through. I love queues, says Caroline. Yeah, it's almost like we're a different country now. It's almost like we're a third country. A third world country and a third country. John says, Slippery Sunak's 3-word campaign slogan, trust in me. Are you channeling Disney's Jungle Book? I believe that you are. Yeah, that would be the slippery snake. Can't remember what it was called now. I can remember the song. Do you want me to sing it to you?
No.
I'll take that as a no. 0345 6060 973. London, Irfan.
Hi there.
Yes, sir. Hello
Nick.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, just watching the news today and how Rishi seems to be claiming that his Rwanda scheme already seems to be working
Yeah.
because of all the people going to Ireland instead.
Yeah, sure.
Now, that's been happening for years. I've literally got a cousin who's done that 2 years ago. Flew to Northern Ireland, went down to Dublin, claimed asylum, yeah?
Right.
Interesting thing is, once you got Irish residency, because of the Good Friday Agreement, you can come and work and live in the UK.
Yeah.
So, how is it working?
Badly, I would say, but at this moment they're just flailing around trying to throw everything they can at the wall, hoping that anything will stick.
Mate, if the sunshine came out tomorrow, he'd try to take credit for that as well.
Yes, he would, yeah. If the sun rises in the east, then it's all thanks to Rishi Sunak.
Thank you.
Yeah, all right. Well spotted there, Irfan. Thanks a lot, mate. 0345 6060 973. Now I've got a full board. This is just so weird. I think that perhaps the phone line fell on its face in the last hour. Maybe that's what that was. Like I said, nothing works in this country. Ilford, G-Van.
Good evening, Nick.
Yes, sir.
Well, I keep listening to all the horror stories of things going wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I think Rishi Sunak should say, not me, Gov.
Yeah, not my fault. Nothing to do with me. This country was like this when I got here.
Exactly.
The Bart Simpson defence, yeah.
Usually, not me, Gov. It's not my fault.
Right.
It's already there, according to him.
OK, got it. Thanks a lot, Jeevan. 0345 6060 973. Pat says, I would miss the right to buy electrical items without plugs if Brexit was reversed. It's hard to believe we used to have to put plugs on electrical items that used to arrive. I mean, we used to have to trust in our own ability to wire a plug.
Warning, warning.
And I don't know about you, but I don't trust my ability to wire a plug. Particularly if there's only 2 wires. I mean, 3, I understand. 2, it seems like one too few. Simon says, I remember no, got that one. Jim says, Conservative slogan, we don't care. Yeah, I'm not sure that's a winning slogan, Jim. I mean, it might have an element of truth about it, but I'm not sure that they're going to win any votes with that. Wayne says the Tory slogan should be stop the votes. Had that one. And Kay says we were talking about 0 hours contracts last night. And she says, or he, sexist, says 0 hours contracts would be okay once we all have an unconditional basic income first. Is that different from the universal basic income, or you just made an error? Yes, I think pretty soon governments all over the world are going to have to think about that. And I know that our government will reject it out of hand, because that would be socialism. And so when artificial intelligence really starts taking over, and when the robots win,
affirmative,
then what? Because there's going to be so many people shortly who won't have a job. I mean, within about I've got absolutely no idea what I'm talking about now, but I'm going to state it as a fact. Within about 10 years, not only are all the dirty fingernail jobs going to be being done by robots,
Correct,
but also, I'd say about half of the white-collar jobs are going to be done by robots.
affirmative.
Yeah. Accountants and lawyers and all of those jobs that require you to remember a lot of stuff and just do the same thing over and over and over again. All of those jobs are going to go. And they keep saying, well, of course, those jobs will go, but they will be replaced by different, more exciting jobs. To which I would say, like what, for instance? I mean, there's only so many things that they can invent that we don't have now. It's difficult to imagine what they can invent, of course, before they do it. But if somebody is let's say, it works in a telephone answering service. What do they call them? Phone exchange things. You know, where they call you up and, or you call them up and like shout down the phone that you can't find your money in your bank account anymore. What do they call them? Telephone answering rooms. Rooms with people who answer telephones. What are they called? Rooms with people who answer telephones. What are they called?
What are they called?
Yeah. You know, big rooms with people with desks who answer telephones, like in the banks. I
don't know. What? Am I too young for this?
No. No, you're right on time. Oh, my God, what are they called? The people who answer the phones in phone centres. My brain is melting right now. Put me out of my mystery. Anyway, those people... Because those people are about to be replaced by a robot. There's absolutely no question about that. And then what are they going to do? Are they going to become computer programmers? No, because there's only a certain type of person that can be a computer programmer, who can invent video games and, all that sort of artistic stuff. You can't just train up and do it. You either are or are not one of those people. It's like being a comedian. I mean, you can tell people... you can give people a joke, but it doesn't mean to say that they can tell it in a funny way. You either got it or you ain't. And there's going to be hundreds of millions of people who are about to get chucked out of work with absolutely zero hope of finding any more. You remember that poster during the COVID pandemic? One of the worst adverts I've ever seen in my life. Thanks to the Conservative Party, they put out a picture of this little ballerina. She was tying up her shoes. And the slogan was something of the order of, Tatiana doesn't know it yet, but her next job is in telesales. I mean, come on. Of course not. And neither could it be the other way around. You don't lose a job in telesales and become a ballerina. You either are or aren't a ballerina. So they're going to have to come up with some sort of universal basic income. And you know which countries are going to have it? They'll be straight on it immediately for the benefit of their citizens. All the perfect 6-foot blonde Scandi countries. You know, the Danes and the Swedes and the Dutch and the Finns.
Oh, fabulous.
Those people. And they will continue to be HAPPY. HAPPY-ness will be all about in those countries, whereas in this country, under this administration, they'd rather have you starve to death than dole out a universal basic income. They'll dribble the money out, just penny by penny, and ask you to crawl over broken glass to get it, and be embarrassed while you're doing it. Feel shame. There's just no way that they would gladly and willingly put forward the universal basic income, even if, like, half the population got fired. They'd just blame you for being unlucky. Unless you think I'm getting any of this wrong, in which case you must correct me. Let's see now. Who's been waiting the longest? York. Hello, Jan.
Hello, Nick. How are you?
I am great, mate.
Good. A couple of months ago, I called and said I was listening to old shows from 2020.
What, my shows?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I've just heard a real good one from October 2020.
Now, that was during the COVID pandemic, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what were we talking about?
And this is one when you had a bit of a meltdown. Do you remember when you went to a garden and you couldn't get a coffee and there was a chap with a leaf blower making a heck of a noise?
Oh, I do remember that. Yeah, that was Savile Gardens.
God, it was so good, was that one.
A leaf blower. I mean, it cost like, I can't remember exactly how much it cost, but let's say £20 to get in. Can you believe that?
What?
Yeah, something of that order. And you go there for a peaceful time. You know, you want to commune with nature and look at the pretty flowers and just have a peaceful afternoon. And there was some moron with a leaf... I don't know whether he was a moron or not, but he looked like a moron to me. With a leaf blower. And he was just trying to blow a leaf from one side of a path to the other. He could have bent down and picked it up. He spent hours cleaning that path.
Your impression of the leaf blower was brilliant.
I can't imagine. No, I don't. I can't imagine what I did to do that. No.
Oh, well, it was very good. You ought to listen to it.
Wow.
But haven't you changed your mind about leaf blowers?
No. Well, yes.
I thought you had.
A little bit, yeah.
But you know what you said in this programme, in this show?
No.
You said there's no good reason why anybody should have one.
Right. Except for me.
Right.
No, I really genuinely believe that no one in a garden where you have to pay money to get in should be interrupting the peaceful serenity with one of those awful machines.
They are awful.
I, on the other hand, use it like about twice a year when the berries fall off the trees that hang over the patch of concrete that I call a garden. Because if you use a brush, then it just gets smeared all over. Oh, but you can blow them away with one of them leaf blowers.
No, I think you're just making an excuse. Do you still go to the gym?
Maybe.
Well, if you used a brush to brush all your leaves and
I wouldn't have to go do...
You wouldn't have to go to the gym.
Go do PE.
Save all that money.
Yeah.
One more thing.
And another thing.
Do you remember you once said you thought we had snow in June?
Yes, 1st of June. I remember it well.
Well, I was watching earlier this week our local Look North.
Yeah.
And the weatherman, he said he had a lot of messages about the bad weather in April.
Yeah.
And he was saying it's not really unusual. We often get bad weather in April.
Uh-huh.
And then he showed a photograph, June 2nd, 1975.
Right.
Snow.
Snow?
Oh, no.
Yeah, snow, exactly. June the 2nd, 1975. That sounds about right. And it was immediately followed by two of the hottest summers in history. Do you remember the summer of 1977?
76.
Well, I think 76 was good, and I think 77 was even better.
No, I think you're wrong there. I think 76. I think 76 was the best.
Right. Well, maybe up your way, Jan, but where I was living, I think 77 was the one.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, then.
But it might have been 76. You might have been right. I get very confused these days.
Do you?
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
Don't you?
You know what? You know why?
Go on.
Age.
I definitely thought you were going to say alcohol.
No.
And I would have been
that.
outraged. No, I've always been this confused, Jan. But thanks. Cheers, my dear. Gotta go. 0345 6060 973. Now, you can listen to those old shows, by the way. They are still available on the World Wide Web. We stick the Friday and Saturday night shows up the internet as podcasts. Now, I know that yesterday's isn't up there yet, but it will be. There's a technical issue which will be solved a toot sweet. And there are many, many old shows up there from the Friday and Saturday night shows. But also there's the Nick Abbot Habit, which is a podcast, a half an hour of clips of old shows that I put together with my own sticky hands. Comes out on a Monday. It's half an hour long. It's called the Nick Abbot Habit. I think you'll love it. It's on Global Player, by the way. If you haven't got Global Player, then it's free. You can get it from your App Store or globalplayer.com. And ask for that podcast by name. The Nick Abbot habit.
This is LBC. Nick Abbot on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Hello.
0345 6060 973. Julius texts, as a 16-year-old listener from Germany, I ask myself, how is Brexit seen in the UK from today's perspective? Was leaving the EU the right choice? Britain, what do you think? Says Julius. Julius, right-thinking people who were persuaded to vote for Brexit have since changed their mind. There is a rump of people who refused to change their mind, who refused to learn their lesson, and refused to accept that they've been had because it's too much loss of face. It's also too much loss of hope, which is the sad part, because they were given hope by a bunch of oily charlatans that their life would be better if only they did what they were told and vote for Brexit. And those people are going to be hard to reach, because losing hope is even worse than losing face. So they'll never admit that they've been had. But everybody else thinks that Brexit was a giant con by a bunch of slimy types who bet against Britain while persuading us to vote for Brexit. Which, I mean, you know, that's not a jailable offence is astonishing to me. Persuading us to do something that they were betting would be bad for the country. How are those people not in jail? Wiltshire, hello, Flo.
Oh, Nick, hello.
Flo.
Do you know, your telephone line to LBC tonight is just terrible, and it was making me think about you saying about the people that answer calls. And it was called, in the old days, a telephone exchange, and I think if you're of my age, do you remember, you used to phone a number, you used to go through to them, and they used to plug in something, and there was always cross lines and stuff. Do you remember that?
I've seen it, of course, on films and TV, but I'd never actually experienced that myself. I'm not that old.
Gosh, I apologise. I thought you were the same age as me, Nick.
No, I don't remember that. I do remember party lines. Do you remember those?
Party lines?
Yeah, the phone, having a phone was such an expensive proposition that people used to share a line with different houses. And so when you picked your phone up to make a call and the other person was using their phone, you couldn't do it until they'd hung up on their conversation, and then you could use your phone. Good grief, the stuff that we used to put up with.
When was that, 1940?
No, that was the 60s, I'm pretty sure about that.
Right, well, now I've offended you inadvertently. I've got some good news. I found the slogan of all slogans for the... Yeah? So it is, let's make the future autumn okay? ? Now, the acronym for that is LMFAO.
Yeah.
And we all know what that stands for, don't we?
If you drop the K off the end, then you got that right.
There's no K, just LMFAO.
Yeah,
but awesome.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, I thought it'd give us a chuckle, Nick. And
a little bit, yeah, not much.
No, just a little one. So, I can't believe your last caller mentioned the 2nd of June 1975, because last week I was speaking to a friend of mine, and that's her birthday date is in June.
Oh, yeah.
And she was saying, because no one believes her, that it actually snowed in June.
Yeah.
And we were only just talking about this last week. It did actually snow.
Yes, it
in
did.
June.
Yeah, I remember it.
Yeah.
I remember it as being the 1st of June, not the 2nd of June, but let's not quibble over 24 hours.
Yeah, let's not.
But then I was living in Scotland at the time, so it's quite possible that it snowed on both days.
Well, yeah, we know what the weather's like up there, don't we?
Blooming freezing.
Yeah, raining. I had to tell you this because some point this week, one of your colleagues, presenter, was on air and they were having this serious conversation about something to do with politics, of recent politics. And your presenter said to this person, he said, but don't you think that when Boris was in, this was his doing back then, and the person he was speaking to was saying, well, it's not really relevant. And I just burst out laughing because even now, people are still trying to blame his Royal Imperial bodgeness on everything. It's just hysterical.
Well, Flo, you're not one of these people who would have called me up during the course of his premiership and told me to leave him alone because he's doing his best, are you?
Absolutely not.
Not?
I'm the person... No, you and I have only spoken about bodge to do with his password for his WhatsApp, and I came to the conclusion that it was Peppa Pig.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't be remotely surprised.
Peppa Pig World. Peppa Pig World is... it has... Peppa Pig?
Peppa Pig is the right answer. Well done, Bodger. Hey, Flo, got to go. Thanks for that. 0345 6060 973. Edward says, Nick, you asked what Rishi Sunak is good at. The answer is successfully bankrupting this country. Well, as long as he made a success out of it. Tavistock, Rose.
Oh, hello, Nick.
Rose, here, you wrote a letter about me to an organ. I saw that.
Yes, well, I sent it you, actually.
I know you did.
Oh, good. I'm glad you've got it. Did you get the little card?
I did, yeah. Thanks for that.
Oh, good. Oh, yes, well, yes, I'm glad they printed it. It's a bit of advertising, wasn't it? But I suppose you'll say nobody reads that magazine.
Oh, loads of people did. I read it with my own eyeballs. But only because you sent it to me.
Yes. Well,
and what was the question they were asking?
Oh, it was your favourite radio voices, because somebody had written spontaneously, oh, I do love the voice of Ian Skelly on Radio 3. He's a lovely chap, actually, Ian Skelly.
I'm unfamiliar with his work.
But, yes, during
and
the
so
day.
you wrote and said, well, what about me? Excellent work there, Rose. Appreciate it.
They asked us then, yes, so I thought, right, well, I'm not missing this one.
Exactly.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Yes, you and... Well, never mind.
I'm famous.
You're famous at last.
Yeah.
It's all to do with me.
Exactly.
Yes, well, a bit of magic, Nick, because I got out onto the moor today. It was a very nice day, actually. And each year you think, I wonder if these migrant birds will come back. And oddly, they all come from Africa. I mean, it's a heck of a way, isn't it?
Unbelievable what they do. It really is absolutely extraordinary. Those tiny little things. And they can't sort of pause halfway because they would drown. So they got to keep going.
Some do sleep on the wing, actually. I did notice that in my book.
Isn't that extraordinary? How do they do that?
I don't know. It's just one of life's bleeding miracles, isn't it? You just think, well, I saw this. I heard it straight away when I got out of the taxi. Oh, blimey, willow warblers have come. And it's this tinkling, sweet song, just a descending bit, and then they repeat it. And it's just so lovely. And I thought, I must see it. So I stood, and after a while I could, because it's not very easy to see, it's brown, green, yellow sort of thing. It's about 1.5 inches long. Well, it's not that, but, very tiny.
Yeah.
And then when it done that a few times, it went beep, and an answering beep came from another hedge.
Oh.
And it kept exchanging this little beep.
What I find remarkable is geese. Geese make such a racket, and there loads of them live in Kew Gardens. Geese. I mean, they poop everywhere. It's awful. But what a noise they make. And they fly in pairs sometimes, and they just don't shut up squawking at each other while they're on the wing, as though, I'm here, and then the other one goes, I'm here.
Oh.
I mean, for crying out loud, just land and be quiet about it. But they don't. There's such a racket.
Oh, that's great. That's a lovely picture. And the other two...
I wasn't trying to describe a lovely picture at all. They're noisy poop-making machines. I hate them.
Well, do you? Well, never mind. There's two more of these that arrived. I felt my cup was running over, although, each year you feel fewer are coming, and all these three are in decline. So I just wanted to make that point.
How long do robins live? Because last year one set up a nest in an ivy thing that I've got in my garden. And then this year, in the exact same place, there's another one. Now, is it the same one? Do they die? How long do they last?
Hold on. Page 257.
You've got a manual?
Well, I've got a book,
Right.
Nick. Robin.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Just hold on. Lifespan, years, average 2, oldest 19.
Right. Blimey, 19.
It could be the same
It could
one.
be the same
Yeah.
one. They found me again. Glad to have them. Here, Rose, I'm going to have to go because I know
blimey.
time's up. Another satisfied customer. 0345 6060 973. It's 11:30 on LBC. The news headlines with Tim Daly.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Thank you for holding. Your call is important to us.
Yes, your call is important to us. Let me see now. Who's been waiting the longest? I'll be totally fair about this. Sandbatch. Hello, John.
I'm not ringing a call centre, am I?
A call centre. Correct, Amundo. Finally, we got there.
Yeah. Well, it came to me about 5 minutes after you got off it.
Yeah.
Since when did we start calling prime ministers by the first name?
That's a good
'Cause
question.
I don't remember that.
Yeah. It might have started with Call Me David Cameron.
Oh.
He was supposed to have said once, Call Me Dave, although there is some question as to whether he actually uttered those words.
I think this is nonsense.
But it may have started with him.
Yeah, well, it was taken up by the right-wing press.
Oh, yeah, because they it was in their interests to try to kid on that Boris Johnson was, friendly and on our side.
Keir Starmer's still Keir Starmer.
Keir. Well, he's Sir Keir. They do insist on saying Sir Keir because it makes him sound posher than the private school-educated wonks that we have been suffering under for the past 14 years.
And it's Sadiq Khan is Sadiq Khan.
Yeah, yeah.
So you don't call him by his first name.
Sadiq. No, you don't.
Yeah, and you don't call him Sadiq.
No.
And you talk about 1975 and that. I distinctly remember watching Northwest News in the early 70s when Yoko Ono, they showed a film by Yoko Ono.
Yoko? Oh, no.
Yeah, it was a film about bums, not politicians. I mean about bottoms.
Bottoms?
Yeah, and that's all it was, bottoms. It was on the news, in the Northwest News.
She's got a retrospective at Tate Modern in London at the minute, and that sounds like another excellent reason not to go and see it.
Exactly. But I mean, what goes on? What goes on with? I mean, they're talking about missiles and this billion-pound missiles. Just fill the potholes in first.
Yeah, would be a good idea. Yeah, it would be a start.
Be a good idea.
Yeah.
Then we could be a modern country.
Well, we could move into the second world and think about making a move into the first world. Yeah, let's take it step by step. Let's not get carried away.
Okay. Then.
All right.
See you later.
Thanks a lot, John. 0345 6060 973. Craig says, Rishi's plans, are we still on last week's plan, or has there been a new one made? I had a nap this afternoon, and I worried I might have missed it. He still has not elucidated the nature of his plan.
We have a plan.
Other than he's got one.
Plan. Or you just go back to square one.
Yeah, let's go back to square one. That would be super. Can we do that right now? Immediately, if not sooner. Edward says, Poulter, the doc, who has defected to Skier and the Labour Party, previously defended Cameron and Osborne and gave us a very different NHS from the one that we had pre-2010. So his newfound conscience does not impress me, says Edward. We should never forget the young who died from sanctions and austerity, of which his party would have voted for around 2012. We need a general election urgently, says Edward. Yeah, I've done that whole Dr. Dan thing. I mean, I can talk about it some more if you like. Chris says, is Dr. Dan part of the plan? And Simon says, have you checked Dr. Dan's voting record? Does it chime with Labour? I haven't checked, but I bet it doesn't, says Simon. How compassionate is this guy? Well, let's find out, shall we? Because we have detailed files. They are available on the World Wide Web. One moment, please, and I'll pull them up for you. There's a website called They Work For You, which is a useful facility. You just type your MP's name in, or your postcode, or whatever, and you can see what they voted for, what their voting record is like. So let's have a little look, shall we? Daniel Poulter consistently voted for reducing the maximum amount an individual may be required to contribute to their social care costs. Comparable Conservative MPs generally voted against. OK, so that's one strike in his favour. Consistently voted for making it easier to remove someone's British citizenship. OK, now we're back to zero again. Consistently voted for making it easier to remove those trespassing on land. Almost always voted for a stricter asylum system. Let me see, what would be relevant? Consistently voted for mass surveillance of people's communications and activities. Almost always voted for stronger laws about enforcement of immigration rules. Health. Okay, here we go. Consistently voted for the public health measures and social restrictions to reduce the spread of COVID-19. Well, they all did. Voted for smoking bans. Voted for reforming the NHS so GPs buy services on behalf of their patients. Don't like the sound of that. Consistently voted for higher taxes. Consistently voted against restricting the provision of service to private patients by the NHS. What else? Miscellaneous. Well, I think they're skipping a whole bunch here that I would be interested in. I'll have to look at it later because there's just too much information to look at it live. But I'm expecting the worst. I'll be happy to be proved wrong, but I'm expecting that it's just the same as all of the other ones. Let's have Woolwich. Hello, Richard.
Hi,
Richard.
Oh, hello there. It's me. Yes, from Woolwich. Hello there.
Hello there.
I just got back from 5 hours of Wagner.
Oh.
And I know how much you love opera, Nick. So I
hate opera. All of that screeching. 5 hours. That sounds like a cruel and unusual punishment. What did you do to deserve that?
I loved every minute. It flew past. It was just gorgeous,
Was this the Ring cycle?
Yeah, the finale of the Ring cycle.
How can you sit through that? I mean, it's just...
I love it.
Really?
I have a friend who sits through the whole 24 hours of it. They do it in Germany. It's amazing.
24 hours? It can't possibly take that long.
My friend missed entering, and they had to wait 2 hours outside to the interval.
Wow.
Yeah.
You could not pay me enough to sit there for 5 hours, never mind about 24 hours. I can't understand it. What's the story?
Oh, it's just beautiful. I mean, so the Wagner Ring story is just lovely. It's about, finding a ring and that kind of thing.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you should have said Ring. Wow.
Well, it's Lord of the Rings, but sort of just in a really,
with screeching, yeah.
With screeching, yeah. But it's just gorgeous. It was beautiful tonight. They kind of illuminated the orchestra, and there was lots of really fun stuff going on.
Just don't care. The only bit I know is from Apocalypse Now. Other than that, I can't tell you anything about it, other than I don't wish to hear it.
Yeah, if you want, I could call every week to give you an update on opera.
No, that's okay.
No, all right, mate. Okay. Well, what I just wanted to say, which was so first of all, universal basic income. I find that fascinating because that's to do with obviously technological unemployment, and I think, like I've heard you talk about, it's the first time. We've always had technological unemployment during every industrial revolution, but this is the first time when I think that truly there is not going to be a creation of jobs.
No.
I think there's...
Because before, there's been, like, dirty fingernail jobs have been replaced by machines, some of them, but not all of them. I mean, machines have taken, like spinning jennies and all of the rest of that. They have put some people out of work, but then they have created other jobs, but not necessarily nice ones, but other jobs have come from it. But now it's just going to be a wholesale wiping out of entire industries of people who, many of whom aren't expecting it. Because I don't think the white-collar people are expecting to get replaced by a robot, but they will, like lawyers and accountants and people like that.
Yeah. Exactly that. And that's what's fascinating. And you know what? If the Tories win, which they won't, thank God.
Well, maybe they will. Maybe they will.
Yeah, there's stuff on the website. Yeah, but I mean, what I'm looking at for me is this transition to Industry 4 and the whole kind of universal basic income. I believe that has to be on a Labour agenda, because every other industrial revolution cycle has always been under Tories and right wing, and they have screwed it up completely and screwed up working class people. And so I'm hoping. It seems that the stars are all aligned now, and that finally we're going to have hopefully a socialist government. And I know people question that, but at least people on the left wing who are going to be in power during the transition toward Industry 4, and therefore things like universal basic income could well be on the agenda.
I don't think so. I all of the above may be true. What's extraordinary to me is that despite all of the evidence to the contrary, the Tories have fashioned for themselves a reputation for financial competence, which they totally don't deserve. No. If you just look at the charts of how much debt the country has been in, it charges up under the Tories and then comes back down under Labour, which is the opposite of what you would think. And similarly, the great parts of the state that we rely on, like the NHS, for instance, do way better under Labour than they do under the Conservative Party, and yet the Tories have a better reputation for that as well, historically, not now necessarily, but historically speaking. But I don't think that there's just no way that those people who are in control of the means of production are going to not fire as many people as they possibly can as soon as they can. I mean, this, and it'll all happen at once, I think. Because at the moment we've got robots and we've got artificial intelligence, but they haven't really done anything significant with them yet. But entire industries are going to start falling over like dominoes. And it's going to all happen at once. And millions of people in every country are going to be not just unemployed, but unemployable. Because what's a lawyer going to do when he's at the age of 40 or 50, when he or she is thrown out of work? Well, they're going to get on a moped and deliver pizzas? Of course not. They're going to be absolutely furious that their life's been taken away from them by a computer chip. And so the only way that I think that this will play out is, even if it is a Labour Party that's in charge at the time, the mass unemployment is going to irk people so much that they will fall for the Conservative Party line, which will be, it's not your fault, it's the fault of this identifiable minority of people over here, usually immigrants or single mothers or benefits claimants or whatever it might be, and people will vote Tory, and then the Conservative Party will, they just can't introduce a universal basic income because it's so against everything that they stand for. So they will just ramp up exactly what's happening now. The woke wars and the wars against migrants and the wars against basically people who aren't you, others. The war against the other. And that's our future.
No, and Nick, absolutely. I mean, I'm completely with you on this. But the thing that I find, it's almost like the tide of history, to use a platitude, is going to is against us all in that sense. Because I believe, I ultimately believe that the universal basic income is going to be the inevitable, because there's absolutely nothing else that we can do. So during COVID, the inevitable was to kind of fund people who were intentionally out of work.
But where's the money going to come from? See, that's the thing.
Well,
all of these companies. Well, yeah, but okay, so. But that's not going to work for the same reason that taxing corporations doesn't work now. They'll just disappear the money. They will exist only as a cloud of mist for tax purposes. And that's true now, and it will certainly be true in... because the people who own these corporations, they're not going to think, well, I'm saving hundreds of millions of pounds because I don't have to employ any people. I'm going to be a nice person and I'm going to distribute it evenly. Of course they aren't.
Yeah, but Nick, I agree with Nick. Right. I agree wholeheartedly with you. But we've got to start thinking along those kind of. We've got to reshape the whole idea of industry and the whole idea of what organisations are morally to us. Yeah. And frankly, and I know I sound like an old socialist, but we've got to actually also think about what we do with our leisure time in the future, because either we can sort of become I don't know, a neo ancient Greeks and sit in plazas and talk philosophy, or we're just going to be mass consumers of kind of VR nonsense.
Yeah, and the latter.
Yeah, that's right.
See, I don't see a happy ending to any of this, but I do know that it would probably benefit from somebody writing an opera about it.
Yeah, it's because, well, spoiler alert, they all die in the end.
They all die in the end. Yeah, exactly. All right, good work. Thanks a lot, Richard. 0345 6060 973. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbott, LBC.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott.
A big sack of monkey nuts.
Yeah, that pretty much sums it up. It's a big sack of monkey nuts. Darryl says, a selection of slogans for the Conservative Party. For strivers, not skivers. Born to rule. You asked for it. And vote Conservative. It's a no-brainer, says Darryl. Now, let's see. Who's been waiting the longest? Bexley Heath. Kathleen.
Oh, hello there.
Kathleen.
Hello, Nick. It's nice to talk to you again. I was just talking about the other night, you were talking about things to watch on the TV, and you said you watched a lot of classic stuff. Yeah. But I'm just trying to say to you that, like, I'm watching some tonight, which actually was, before the pandemic, it was like normal TV, like you don't have to pay a subscription. It's a broad church, some sort of something to watch. I don't want to identify the station in case I get in trouble, or Broadchurch. Have you ever heard of Broadchurch?
Oh, I thought you were describing it as a broad church, but it's called Broadchurch.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No. What's that then?
It's about murder.
Isn't it always? What is this obsession about murder? Don't you find that's a bit weird, that people relax on their in their off time, and what they really want more than anything else is people killing each other?
Well, I watched another thing. It's called, it's in North America. It's like, what's it called? Virgin River.
Right. Yeah, is that about killing people too?
No, it's a bit sad. I don't think it would be your cup of tea.
Sad?
It's love and togetherness and...
Oh, you mean people sitting around and talking about their feelings?
Boring!
No.
That Rhoda is like she's written 1,000 movies.
No.
Science fiction. I love that the most. Passengers.
Yeah.
All that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I know you've been stuck not knowing to watch anything, so I thought I'd say to you, if you were stuck, you could watch sort of X-IT some V, XYZ.
Right, Broadchurch. Well, it's a no from me. I'm not interested in watching people kill each other all the time, or people investigating deaths. And our obsession with people who kill other people just is bordering on weird to me. I mean, I know it's not as in this country's obsession, but it's the human condition that we seem interested more than anything else in people killing each other. Absolutely everything on TV, including the news, of course, is about people killing each other. It's just so bizarre. It's not really my thing. When the gore comes out, then I reach for the remote control. It's a big no from me. Thanks for the swerve there, though, Kathleen. Appreciate it. Information coming in from next door. Broadchurch is a drama on ITV, came out in 2013. Right, well, I am unfamiliar with it. And neither, with the greatest respect to ITV, am I interested in watching anything on ITV. I can't think of anything I watch on ITV. Anything at all. In fact, I could name the programmes that I watch on general television, as in not paid for by satellite or cable. I could list them on the fingers of one hand. Match of the Day, Antiques Roadshow. I've just run out. That's not very good value for money, is it? Those are the only two shows I watch on any of the top 5 channels. There must be others, but I can't think of any. Well, there's repeats of the Antiques Roadshow. I watch them, but I don't think that counts. Thanks a lot, Kathleen. Cheers, my dear. Let's have Oldbury, Ranjit.
Hi, Nick. You all right, mate?
I was reading an article about fish and chips and the dying industry of the fish and chip monger because of the price of stuff. How much is a bag of fish and chips now?
I haven't put my prices up yet, but it's £10.70. Contemplating on putting the prices up.
Right.
Probably week after next.
Is that a large fish and large chips or average?
No, large fish, which is about 14 ounce in weight, right, and bag of chips.
Yeah.
But there's going to be a harvest crop failure this year because none of the potatoes have gone in because of the waterlogged ground.
Really?
And it is very serious, to be honest with you.
Well, you're telling me no chips.
Yeah. Okay. You know this. I've got a slogan: "Trust in Tichi."
Yeah. Trust in me,
right,
as in from the Jungle Book.
No, trust in Tichi, right? Look, think about the initials. Yeah. Okay.
No.
That was in Truss Independent Trading. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. You know this thing. Okay. Quickly, just before this MP that's moved to the Labour Party.
Yes.
Yeah?
Dr. Dan.
I can just imagine Rees-Mogg saying if the minister with no portfolio had gone over to the Labour, he would have said, "Oh well, he had no portfolio." Well, why the hell are you paying him then if he's got no portfolio, the minister? You follow what I'm saying? The Tories have got a minister with no portfolio. What does he do or she do? Yeah?
He tries to find his portfolio. I mean, he left it around here somewhere. Damned if he can't find it.
Yeah, and then Rees-Mogg would have said, he was a nobody, but, we're claiming expenses on him. The other thing about artificial intelligence, Nick, once it's been in for, say, 50 or 60 years, how are they going to generate money? Well, who's going to be doing anything to buy anything, to, eat anything or whatever?
That's an excellent point, yes. How will the economy go round? And I think that it will crash before somebody does something about it, because the people who are running the companies that everyone gets fired in are not going to want to give up the money that they're saving on not having to employ people. They're going to do everything in their considerable power to avoid doing that. So there won't be any money and there won't be any people to buy stuff. And that will last for a considerable while, I would guess, until somebody finally figures out that things ain't going to work unless the majority of people have at least some money to buy stuff with.
Yeah, like now, a farmer grows potatoes, somebody transports them, I cut them up, I sell them.
Yeah.
somebody works in a supermarket, somebody delivers, and all that cycle is going to finish, isn't it, eventually?
It will, yeah. And I think that it will actually stop before somebody, after a period of time, and it could be a generation, restarts it with thoughts of socialism. But I think the resistance to that is going to be enormous. And the resistance will come from people who have an unimaginably huge amount of money. Because, I mean, the people who run corporations now are rich, but imagine how much richer they'd be if they could fire all those annoying workers. So I think we're in for, if not necessarily a war, then we're in for a battle. But we could get lucky, and it might happen after we've shuffled off life's conveyor belt.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC. LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbot.
And I can't stand it. What number are you calling from?
Thanks for asking. It's 0345 6060 973. Stu texts, Gordon Brown has always been my favourite Prime Minister of recent years. It was his appeal was his lack of charisma. I want a serious, competent person to run the country dedicated to reducing child poverty. Yeah, what a concept. A serious person. Any thoughts, Bodge?
I can't comment on that.
Can't comment on that. Blah, blah, blah. Oh. Yeah, not him, specifically. Winchester. Hello, Simon.
Nick, good evening.
Simon.
Just a quick update. There's still no blue signs outside those houses I was telling you about last night.
What houses?
The blue signs that get put out when... the ones that I nicked.
Blue signs.
Yes.
Oh, you're
Yes.
talking... Right, people who are putting out their political allegiance in flag form on their lawns.
Yeah.
And you accidentally took them.
Up.
Yeah.
And they're still not there. So I'm gathering that the Tories must be quite tight with their signage budget, because otherwise they would have put some more out, I would have thought. But anyway...
I would return them whence they came, if I were you, Simon.
Of course, yes, of course.
Dib, 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 do your best.
Yeah, absolutely. I do, I put orange ones there. That guy that phoned up said he'd been to see Wagner for 5 hours.
Painful.
I had this really weird image in my head. For some reason, I thought it was on about the Wagner group.
That would have been perhaps slightly less painful.
Yeah. It would be like a mass paintball session with, like, real bullets and not very pleasant.
No, much like sitting in front of a Wagner opera for 5 hours. Not very pleasant. I couldn't imagine it. I would want to leave within about 2 minutes.
I'll give it a go, but I'm not sure.
It just sounds like torture to me. I mean, it just goes on and on, and people watch it over 3 days. I mean, that's just way too much.
It's not quite as bad as cricket, though, is it?
Well, that is true. Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
Now, look, the main point I want to make, the serious point, is I was diagnosed. By the way, I'm not being serious when I say this, but I was diagnosed with 6 months to live by the doctor, and I've planned a round-the-world trip for a year's time. And that's a bit like saying that we're going to have a cruise missile, isn't it? By a government that's not going to be anywhere near power.
You've kind of lost me. I will admit, Simon. I have no idea what you're talking about right now. You're saying that a doctor. You're saying that you're not serious, but you're saying that you were given 6 months to live.
Well, I'm being a little bit facetious. What I'm saying is, why does this government keep announcing future plans when they're not even going to...
Well, they've got to pretend.
Yeah, well, I've been given 6 months to live, so I booked myself a round-the-world cruise for a year's time.
Well, that sounds like a good idea, Simon. I'll see you at the dock. Thanks a lot, mate. Got to go. 0345 6060 973. Archie says the only thing that Rishi Sunak was good at was relieving us of Liz Truss's premiership.
Absolutely.
That's true. Yeah, your job is done, Rishi. Don't allow us to detain you any further. We appreciate your effort.
Thank you.
Pat says that slogan for Sir Haircut is really bad. Who's Sir Haircut? You're talking about Skier. Let's get our future back. Right, okay. You are talking about Skier. That slogan for Sir Haircut is really bad. Let's get our future back. That is a bit vague, isn't it? Says Pat. I don't say it's going to be a good future. It doesn't say it's going to be a good future, does it? I mean, if you're halfway down falling off a ladder, your future might not be all you hope for. And hey, has he not seen Terminator?
Negative.
I bet he hasn't seen Terminator. What would be his favourite film? Itchy Suit Size or Sir Haircut? Louise says, are you still collecting election slogans for the Conservatives? These three are interchangeable for different situations. Making you poor, making you ill, and making you angry. Well, I think making you angry is the order of the day. Just not angry at them. At somebody else. Anybody else will do. Just someone who doesn't look, talk, walk and squawk exactly like you do. You know, somebody who you can hate easily. Bath. John.
Hey, Nick.
John.
First of all, you were correct. It was 1977. I remember it. So, the date you were talking about.
Oh, the hottest summer ever, 1977.
Yeah, and the snow as well earlier.
Yeah, 76 was pretty good as well. I think we had 2 summers in a row. I'm kind of giving up hope for the one that's approaching. I mean, I know...
they're telling us it's going to be really hot.
Yeah, sure they are. They don't know what they're talking about. They can't tell what it's going to be like in 2 days' time, never mind about in a couple of months' time. I'll tell you what...
Nick, that's what windows are for.
Yeah, exactly. I'll tell you what they're saying now. Well, at the moment, it sort of looks like raining and cloudy but with each week that goes by, the temperature is edging up a bit, but I wouldn't call it summer.
No.
Or even summer adjacent.
I was going to say to you that my slogan for the Conservative Party is, does anyone fancy some water with their sewage?
That sounds delicious. What are you making the ice cubes out of? Don't tell me.
Exactly. But, do you know, I was just actually thinking, you were talking about AI. Do you know, your good self has put so much out there, whether it's yourself with Nick Abbott's Abbot or with Giffen. I reckon that somebody could probably put you into a computer and you're going to end up, but long after you and I have shuffled off this mortal coil, there's going to be an AI-generated Nick Abbott.
What?
On radio.
Yeah, I'm sure that could actually be done. I mean, if it can't be done at this moment, then it could almost certainly be done, within a brief period of time.
It's slightly terrifying, but
a little bit.
But like you'll be immortal. But it's just the idea that whether it can interact the way you do.
Yeah, well, that's what I was thinking. I mean, you could get it to just say things that I've said already, or in my voice. Make up sentences of your choice, but you'd have to have somebody to make up the sentences, surely, unless AI could do that too. Can AI tell jokes?
No, but in a few years' time, who knows?
Yeah.
I don't think AI has a sense of humour, but, it's possible. I mean, who knows? I didn't think they could, draw a picture, but they've managed to do that.
Yeah, they have. They've gone they've gone way further than that. They do videos now. You just write what you want the video to look like, and it can magic it up.
Indeed. Just to end this, I was going to say that I did listen to the Liz Truss interview.
Yeah.
And what she said was her proudest moment was her mini budget. Now, I mean, need I say more?
To have such strong self-belief with absolutely no reason is extraordinary in a human being. Yeah, it kind of is. Yeah, she is a bit like a robot.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There is something
Yes.
robotic about her, in much the same way as the Terminator.
But all devoid of morality and conscience and regret
and emotion,
and all those things,
Yeah.
and emotion, and and that's what made me laugh. Is when one of your callers just now was talking about the utopia we could have if we actually had a world where we had an income for everybody and that. But politicians are devoid of morality. Most of them.
Yeah, I think that's... Well, certainly lately it just seems that way. Yes, it really does. Yeah. They just don't care about anything other than their self-advancement. And all other considerations are secondary.
And that's for Dan Dare.
Yeah.
That went across the House. I mean, I suppose you just got to look at it as it is. It's just a hit for Labour to have somebody walk across the benches. But his voting record is appalling. But anything that helps bring down this current government, to me, I'm not going to argue it.
Right, okay, I'll put you down as going along with it. All right. Thanks a lot, John. He certainly doesn't seem to like the environment. I mean, this is from the website They Work For You. You can look up your MP to see what they have voted for on the issues. And I put his name in it, and according to the website They Vote For You, Daniel Poulter, who has just defected from the Tories to the Labour Party, consistently voted against improving air quality. Well, that's a bit weird, isn't it? I mean, I don't know... OK, let's see what it actually was. Voted to not require a target for particulate matter under 2.5 micrometres in diameter to be set at a level... Oh, OK, it's very, very technical, so I won't bother you with it. Consistently voted against improving biodiversity. Generally voted for lower taxes on fuel. Voted against greater regulation of fracking. Generally voted against financial incentives for low-carbon electricity generation. Voted against measures to prevent climate change. Voted against improving environmental water quality. What? I mean, do we need that? Voted for a mixture of for and against the preservation of environmental protections, and so on and so on. I don't know. Just don't make him head of DEFRA, that's all. 0345 6060 973. Rob text, Tory catchphrase for this election, better the devil. Martin says, how about this? No choice left. It applies to both parties. I'm not sure that's true. Edward says, every time they get into power, the Conservatives embark on destroying the NHS. The Tories absolutely detest the NHS. It's no accident the NHS is presently in a state. Well, it doesn't seem like an accident. If it is an accident, then they're terrible at their jobs. If they have determined to ruin the NHS so that it can be taken over by private enterprise, then they're doing a great job. So select, are they bad at their job or great at their job? Because it can't be an accident. Kay says, I found an NHS dentist too. My waiting time, only 5 months. I've split a gum. Oh, God, I didn't even know you could do that. That's way too much information, Kay. How can you... 5 months? You've got to be kidding me. Ryan says, according to the national statistics, road fuel prices have risen by about 7% in the last 3 months. What's the government doing to keep fuel affordable? Making it more expensive? Jeff says, mind the wage gap. Anne says, the pleasure is all ours. This is possible slogans for the Tories. I think we've had plenty. Maybe I'll just get off this. Winner takes it all, says Ian. That might be it. I do believe we found a winner.
This is LBC. Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
I really like you. Do you like me?
Yeah, sure. Why not? You know the president of France? No! Yeah, that's him. The French president, Emmanuel Macron, condemned Rishi Sunak's little scheme to deport channel migrants to Rwanda as a betrayal of European values.
What?
Yeah. President Macron said he did not believe in this model that some people want to put in place, which means you go and look for a third country, for example, in Africa, and send our immigrants there. That's what he said. But he said it with that sort of French accent that they say, because everything sounds wonderful and beautiful. He suggested the scheme would be ineffective. He said, this is a betrayal of our values and will lead us down the path of new dependencies on third countries. And Downing Street said, essentially...
No.
No. They said, you're incorrect, mate. They dismissed the claim, saying the plan was entirely compliant with our international obligations. They're saying it like a robot.
Affirmative.
Yeah, it is entirely compliant with our international obligations, because saying it makes it so. Just like saying that titchy suit size is a towering pile of muscular manliness makes it true. A spokesman for the Prime Minister says, we don't agree. We think our approach is the right one. In terms of breaking the business model of the criminal gangs, we need a strong deterrent. A stronger deterrent than actually dying on an unsafe boat in the freezing cold in the middle of the world's most dangerous shipping lane. I mean, it has to be a stronger deterrent than drowning. And what's the deterrent? The deterrent is a totally safe holiday destination in the sun. That'll teach 'em. And former Home Secretary Dame Priti Patel weighed in. She's back. She reminded people that she's a dame. How did that happen? Seriously, Bodge, what possessed you to think that Priti Patel was due an honour?
Yeah. Wait a minute.
I mean, what about me smug while you're at it?
I can't comment on that.
So Priti Patel emerged into the light just as most of us had managed to forget about it completely. And because she was replaced in our nightmares by Suella Braverman. And Priti Patel criticised the French president, saying President Macron is clearly worried that our partnership with Rwanda will mean that fewer migrants will attempt to cross the channel, and he will need to take responsibility for dealing with their asylum applications and with the criminal gangs that are running rife in France. You know, why? I mean, this government haven't done anything about the criminal gangs running riot in this country. And don't take my word for it, though. We know it's true because they are forever calling this or that place in Britain a no-go zone. A no-go zone. The government's Rwanda bill finally became law this week after months of delay, and a new treaty was designed to ensure the African country is safe for migrants. And that also came into force. And we also signed a treaty that makes Wednesday Thursday, and the sun a dark, freezing planet of ice, which is perfectly safe to look at with the naked eye. It's the law. And the scheme means that the Home Office officials can now start detaining the first batch of migrants destined for deportation to Rwanda ahead of the first flights this summer. And what happens next won't bother the regime much because they won't be in power to have to answer questions as to why people are still coming. Bet they do. And what happens next won't bother the regime because they won't be in power. And none of this matters. You can't stop people coming here by threatening to send them to somewhere better, which is how Rwanda is being described by the regime. It's safe. We know that the streets of Britain are not safe because people like Suella Braverman and the rest of them tell us our streets aren't safe. But Rwanda's streets are safe because they've told us they are. And it's warmer there. I mean, they talk of opportunities and excellent accommodation. I mean, that sounds like being sent to Rwanda would be a reason to try to get here. And now the Tories have got what they want. They're going to be like a dog that chases a car and doesn't know what to do with it when they catch it. What are they going to fight against now that they've defeated the lefty lawyers and the activist wokerati and the enemy of the people judges? What's the plan now, Rishi? Apart from saying the word plan a lot.
We have a plan, plan, or you just go back to square one. That's why it's so important we stick to this plan.
Stick to the plan, whatever the plan is. Just saying the word plan a lot. That is the plan. Dave says, so the Conservatives think a consultant who has worked with the NHS is wrong about it, while they, a bunch of millionaires with private healthcare, understand it. We're upside down and on fire again, aren't we, says Dave. That sounds about right to me, yeah. Let's have Snowdonia. Hello, Sarah.
Oh, hello.
Sarah.
How are you?
Great, mate.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear it. Well, I was phoning up about geese, really, which is really trivial compared to what you've been chattering about.
Geese?
Well, you were talking about your dislike of geese.
Yeah, awful things. Stupid, loud, poopy animals.
I have to disagree with you, because I had a small flock of geese, and they were actually learning to follow my husband and do hand signals. If he to the right, he would go to the right, and so forth.
Now, the geese were doing it, or your husband was?
Well, my husband was doing, like, the aircraft thing.
Yeah.
And the geese were following the instructions.
No, I don't believe that.
Well, it's true.
Weren't they just following him?
Well, they were following him, but if he put his arm out to the right, they would go to the right.
No.
Yes way.
Even if he went to the left, they would go to the right?
Well, I doubt that.
Ah, so if he put his hand out to the right and he himself turned right, then they would just follow him.
Well, maybe so. I don't know. I'd have to review.
Yeah.
I'd have to review the photos.
Exactly.
But anyway, the point about them being, they were actually really rather lovely, and
I don't know. Define lovely.
Well, they were rather sweet. They would go into their little pen at night, and they would nest around, and then they would come out in the morning and fly about a bit if I chased them. It's just the incessant pooping that gets me.
Well,
but they don't really. I mean,
are you kidding me? You can't walk across some of the fields in Kew Gardens for risk of because if you're wearing trainers, then you don't just get a smear of it. It sticks into all those nooks and crannies in the bottom of your training shoe.
Well, disgusting.
Awful.
I mean, well, I wear Wellingtons the whole live-long day. It doesn't really matter to me.
Yeah, right.
But they are nothing compared to my Cameroon sheep, who bleat incessantly.
Mm-hmm.
Sadly, though, about the geese, though, you know, you were talking about drama and films where everybody dies.
Yes.
An opera.
Yeah.
Well, the sad thing is that on a farm, we let the geese out one day in the lovely morning light.
Mm-hmm.
We came back to see them half an hour later, and a fox had decapitated all of them.
Wow. All of them?
Yeah. He'd taken one away and eaten it down by one of the streams.
Yeah.
But the rest of them just had their heads off.
Well, there's nothing funny about it, but it seems a bit weird. Why would a fox do that? I mean, what are they, killing them for later?
Maybe so, but, you know, maybe so. But that's what the fox did.
I think there's too many foxes. I mean, where you are, I've got no idea, but there's way too many foxes in town.
Oh, urban foxes?
Yeah, they
People
are
feed them
everywhere.
like pets.
They're everywhere now.
Dogs.
They used to come out at night or in the evening at least, but now they just wander around in the daytime. They wander down pavements where people are walking. They don't fear us anymore.
I used to live in Brighton. I saw it myself.
Yeah. Well, I live in London, and they're everywhere in London. I mean, in the very centre of London, in Trafalgar Square, they live.
I know.
People feed them. Yeah, you're quite right. People do feed them. Yeah.
And they're idiots.
Morons.
Because they're actually they're predators, and they're actually, in their world, apex predators. So only we are higher than they are in the apex order.
Right, and they don't fear us anymore.
Of course they don't. And they came and not only did, in broad daylight, that bloody fox decapitate all of my geese. I've also lost all of my call ducks, all of my cayuga ducks. But the only things that actually, the bird life that lives here, right, are my chickens, who you would think were stupid.
Yes.
They are the only birds that I've got that have actually evaded the fox.
Huh. How have they done that then?
Well, they roost in a stable really high up, and they've got a load of goats downstairs to defend.
Oh, right. Goats. Well, you should have said goats. Yeah.
Oh, my goats are great.
Well, they don't take any nonsense from a fox, I bet.
They take no nonsense from anything.
Anything, yeah.
No. A goat is it's about as clever as a collie, a border collie, and I've got 4 of those as well.
Blimey, it's a menagerie. What animals you have left constitute a menagerie around your place?
I also have 5 Lithuanian mini pigs.
A Lithuanian mini pig.
5.
There's no such thing.
There, so is. Look it up.
I certainly will do nothing of the sort.
I dare you. And I've got 2 ponies, and yeah.
And you live on the 5th floor of a council block?
That is exactly right.
Right.
Yes, in Stoke Newington.
Stoke Newington, yeah. All right, well, I wish you all the best with your flock there, Sarah. Try to keep some of them alive, at least. Thanks a lot. Cheers, my dear. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nick@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. You can also WhatsApp us, baby. And the WhatsApp number is the same as the phone number, 0345 6060 973. 12:30 on LBC, the news headlines with Tim Daly.
Nick Abbott.
This is absolute tosh.
Thanks, Nige. You're the best. Graham says texting was originally designed for the use of the phone network engineers. I'd phoned to tell you that, but it seemed easier to send it on WhatsApp. People are going to lose the ability for communicating with their mouths. We're going to be... Eventually, we're just going to be a round blob with a finger sticking out the front of our circular bodies, our blobular bodies. And the finger will be connected to a phone screen. And we won't have a mouth, because why would we need one of those anymore? Geraldine says, they are called operators, but you confuse the situation by saying rooms. Oh, this is from ages ago. I was trying to come up with call centres. I don't know why I've got a block on that, but call centres is what I was trying to come up with. Gateshead. Hello, Robert.
Hello?
Robert.
Hello, Nick.
Yes, Robert.
It's you were asking about how we can have a global basic income?
Yes.
The thing is, there's just been a book published, which I've told you I produced and I'm reading, by Ingrid Robbins, called Limitarianism.
It's called what?
Limitarianism.
Limitarianism.
Yes.
Okay.
How much is too much?
Not enough.
Oh, well, if you ask people, America's got 1,700 billionaires. Britain's got 160 billionaires.
Right.
Let's take the money off them.
Yeah, they couldn't possibly spend it if they stayed up all night long for the rest of their lives and on the phone bashing down their plastic.
You were just discussing artificial intelligence.
Yes.
Not 10 years, not 15 years, try 5. They're using what is called a large learning model now to increase the capacity for artificial intelligence to do certain things.
Yes.
If it speeds up, you know yourself what you just said before, there's going to be lots and lots of people who are out of work.
Millions, hundreds of millions of people, probably billions of people around the world are going to be instantly fired. Yeah.
And also, that applies to every country in the world.
Exactly.
There's going to be no country immune to this stuff.
At all. Well, the only ones will be the real third world countries where they don't really have... Is there a third world country that they don't really have the internet? Must be.
Well, it's not to do with the internet, it's to do with who's got the money.
Yeah, that's true, yeah. There's going to be a vanishingly few number of people who have money. I mean, at the moment, we have a pretty poor distribution of wealth, but you just wait, and it won't take very long. You're quite right. Once computers start learning from other computers, then the rate at which they learn will be exponential, and it won't take very long for them to take over the world.
Affirmative.
Yeah, robots.
Well, I don't want to use a good old Geordie expression, here's a blanket, make yourself a hat.
Hello?
Say
that one again.
I don't want to use a Geordie expression, here's a blanket, make yourself a hat.
And what does that mean?
Because you come up with lots of stuff that is very relevant to the situation that we find ourselves in as a country, and it doesn't appear that anybody's listening.
Here's a blanket, make yourself a hat.
Big head.
Oh, is that what that means?
A listener with material.
Right, oh no. All right, well, thanks for that, Robert. Thanks for leaving me in a state of confusion. Richie says, call centres that take calls, they call call centres. That is true, yeah. Undeniable. Christina says, a slogan, vote the Tories, the rich want more. Tessa says, I worked at the telephone exchange, perhaps you're talking about that. No, call centres is what I was talking about, but it seems like hours ago I was doing that now. Andy says, it's true about Spain, Nick. If I go to the hospital in Spain, say for an X-ray, before I even get back to my car, the X-ray image is available for me to view on the medical app. I make appointments on the app. If I get a prescription, no paper is needed. The chemist just swipes my health card. I can see a GP on the same day. All costs nothing directly, but the UK NHS is the envy of the world, says Andy. A little bit of sarcasm there, I think. Yeah, you're quite right. But we just put up with it in this country, don't we? We just shrug ourselves, oh, well, never mind, mustn't grumble, after grumbling about it for 3 hours straight, but that would be the end of it. Tom says, Tory slogan, back to the mines. Yeah, they should try that one out. Put that up the flagpole. 0345 6060 973. Let's see now. Bromley, Aisling.
Hi, Nick.
Aisling.
Hello. I was just calling in about, I was just having a look at the two articles. One about Prime Martin was saying, calling Rishi Sunak's plan about Rwanda.
Oh, this is a very, very bad line, Aisling.
No.
Can you do anything about that?
Let me see.
Are we on speakerphone, by any chance?
Is that any better?
Yeah, it is a bit better, yeah. Go ahead.
Is that... Sorry. No, I was just saying, I was having a look at the article in The Guardian where Micheál Martin called the Rwanda plan a knee-jerk reaction, and then looking at a separate article at the same time how Rishi Sunak tried to twist that and say that meant it was working. I just thought it was quite funny to look at them side by side, like, kind of worrying that people, like, does he really think that people will see that as meaning it's working?
You know what? I'm going to have to say goodbye because I can't really understand what you're saying. And if I can't with headphones on, then the people at home are going to be looking quizzically at the radio. So, a good effort, Aisling. If you've got a thing called a landline, then maybe try to use that next time. But I appreciate the effort.
Thank you.
0345 6060 973. Maybe it's because I'm using headphones that I couldn't understand what she was saying. Maybe I've got her voice pressed so close to my brain that there wasn't enough space between her speaking and me understanding it for comprehension. But just nothing works in this country at all. Name one single thing that works in this country. Go on, I double dare you. Adrian says, we had a party line as recently as 1977. You weren't meant to know who you shared a line with, but we recognised the distinctive tones of the old lady round the corner every time we lifted the receiver. Yeah, kids will just be stunned to realise that pretty recently, we weren't living in caves, we were living in houses that look pretty much exactly like the ones that we're living in now. And a phone line was such an expensive proposition that you actually shared it with someone across the road. We know who had our party line. I don't think it was a secret. And you had to wait till they were off the phone before you could make a phone call. And there was no way of knowing when they put the phone down. You just had to keep checking all the time, which meant that somebody was, like, you'd hear a click on the line, and that's your neighbour who's got the phone up to their ear and they're listening to what you're saying. Unbelievable. Mick says, Brexit gave me a blue passport. Shame I can't afford to use it these days, though, due to the cost of living crisis and the appalling government. Let's all fight is the Tory slogan from Mark. Yeah. You're looking at me. And Jan is right, says Mary. 1976 was the really good summer. Yeah. OK, then. But 1977 wasn't that bad neither. Just saying. Walthamstow. Hello, Keith.
Good morning, Nick.
Keith.
Yeah, I hadn't heard on your show, but I've been listening, obviously, to others. But Jacob Rees-Mogg, he gave a speech, or he was asked to speak at a university in Cardiff. I'm not familiar with the universities in Wales, so but it ended up with he had to run away because there was an uprising and the students had a revolt against him, and he was escorted to his limousine where he had to make a quick disappearance.
Right.
I thought you might have mentioned that in your show because it's something.
Not so far, no.
It did entertain me at the time because when I heard it, because he's so pompous.
He is so pompous.
He's in a different cloud.
Running this country for too long.
He's a little bit pompous. Pompous politician, yeah.
And I don't want him harmed because I'm waiting for the shoe prices to come down because my shoes are wearing thin and he's promised me the shoes will be cheaper.
Cheaper food, clothing and footwear.
We have cheaper food, clothing and footwear straight away.
Straight away.
I've given up with the food bit. I think that's that one's taken. That's gone with the wind.
Yeah, that is exactly right. And it's about to get more expensive because we're about to bring in the checks that they've been putting off ever since we left. Ever since we had our glorious Brexit and left the socialist overlords of the European Union. But you know what? Jacob Rees-Mogg doesn't seem to be that upset with those protests. But I bet people will be upset on his behalf in the right-wing press.
Well, hopefully at the next election they might show him. He's always ranting on about Somerset, so hopefully they'll show him the door.
Yeah, the good people of Somerset might need to think it out again. Yeah, exactly.
Very much so.
All right. OK, thanks a lot, Keith. Here's that story. Jacob Smug said that the protests against him at Cardiff University were legitimate and peaceful, if noisy. This is after he was, in the words of The Guardian, chased off campus on Friday as the incident received cross-party condemnation from elsewhere. See, people are annoyed on his behalf. Footage showed the Conservative MP being followed by a small number of shouting demonstrators as he was escorted into a waiting car by 8, count them, 8 security guards after speaking at the university's Conservative Society. How many people could there possibly be in Cardiff University's Conservative Society? He said it was a legitimate and peaceful, if noisy, protest. So there you are, you see. No problem. Words from the man himself. Any thoughts, Smug?
I don't know anything.
He actually doesn't know anything. Kath texts, they should fill the potholes in with unsold copies of Liz Truss's book.
That is a disgrace.
It's disgraceful to even think that, Kath, let alone putting it in a text. Tom says, Tory slogan, not long now. Yeah. Put that in a lectern, I double dare you. Pete says, ban horse racing because they do not choose to race and they risk their lives for humans' pleasure. Make the gamblers jump the fences over freezing cold water, see how they like it. Yeah, I'd pay... Actually, I wouldn't. I'd watch it if it was free. I wouldn't pay to see that. So I almost lied there. Liar! Almost. And Mel sums it up for us by saying, it's all just such a mess. Yeah. Yeah, that does sound about right. Still, cheer up, Mel. It might never Oh, no. That's right. It already has.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84850.
Come on, we're running late.
We are running late. Let's have a call in Leytonstone. Russell.
Hello, good evening.
Yes, Russell.
Hi, I take on your challenge. What works in Britain?
What works in Britain? OK. Well, this phone doesn't work that well, unless we're on speakerphone, in which case, take us off it.
No, that's all right. I can sort that out. I'll tell you what works in Britain.
Yes.
Number one, LBC. It's brilliant, right?
Right. Well, I don't think we can't.
And the ability that you listen to everybody else's conversation and you engage as well. And I love your sound bites. They're brilliant. Can you give me a Boris?
What would you have him say? I've got a good one for you.
Read my lips. We will not be raising taxes on income or VAT or national insurance.
Yeah, which is as true as this.
I followed the ministerial guidance at all times. I followed the ministerial guidance at all times. I followed the ministerial guidance at all times. I followed the ministerial guidance at all times.
Yeah, he followed the ministerial guidance at all times. Yeah.
£350 million to the NHS.
Exactly.
Have you got that one? No, okay. Well, I've got an interesting take on the Rwanda bill.
Go on.
Okay, right. I live in a lovely flat in Leytonstone with my wife, right? Okay, it's really comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, how about 1.8 million it costs to send somebody to Rwanda?
Yes.
I'll tell you what, give me the 1.8 million.
Yeah.
Right, I give half of it to the NHS.
Mm-hmm.
Give me the other half. I'll go to Rwanda, and somebody else can come and live in my flat.
Well, how about this? We'll give you the 1.8 million and the person that we were going to send to Rwanda, and you can lock them in your bathroom and throw away the key.
Oh, no. Let them live in our house, and we'll go to Rwanda with £900,000.
Yeah.
And give 900,000 to the NHS. You know, it's a win-win everywhere, isn't it?
Russell,
really?
You are a flaming genius.
Yeah.
Nobody said their wife, like.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
Nobody's got a wife like me. That's my wife. Because she would like the idea as well.
Right.
Don't you think that's a really good idea?
It's a work of rare genius, Russell, and I'll tell you what, I'll see you at the airport. All right. Happy landings. The problem solved. Yeah, give us the 1.8 million, and we'll go live in Rwanda, and the migrants can stay in our vacant homes. How's that sound? Brilliant plan. Good work there, Russell. Keep thinking. Esther says, I hate murder movies too, Nick. A lovely film is Red, White and Royal Blue. Funny, sad and just beautiful. I never heard of it. I've heard of Red, White and Blue. Or Three Colours, Red, White and Blue. It's 3 different films by some Czech filmmaker whose name escapes me. It's they're pretty good, actually, and I think that it's worth seeing and you have to see them in the right order, because otherwise catastrophe would ensue. But to see how it all ties up at the end is actually brilliant. I think Kieslowski, something like that. 3 Colours, Red, White and Blue. Now, they're not a laugh riot, and some of the films are better than others, but if you see the 3 as a piece, then you'll find that they all tie up at the end in a rather surprising way, and it really is a great work. There you are. You can watch that and thank me later. In fact, no, I've changed my mind. You can thank me now.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Cornwall, Malcolm.
Oh, hello, Nick. How are you, sir?
Great, mate.
Hey, listen, you've got to put in a call every Friday and Saturday night to that lady in Snowdonia with the birds. It was funny. It was dark.
Yeah.
But it was funny, I thought.
It was kind of alarming. Why would a fox kill everything in sight?
Well, they do it with the chickens. They'll go into a chicken coop, and although she said hers escaped it, but then again, they were up on the beams in the barn. Said, but
being protected by goats. That's what she said.
That was funny. You've not been really, really funny since Brexit, Nick. And all those Brexit callers. You were really, really funny then.
I tell you what, Malcolm, you can shut right up. I haven't been funny since Brexit. Get lost.
Not really, really funny. You've been really funny, but not really, really funny.
Right.
Hey, listen, and then the other thing were that the 3-word slogan for the Tory party not long now. You got to phone him up as well and ask him to make a voice recording to go on your screen, because I thought that absolutely cracked me up.
Yeah.
Not long now.
Not long now. Any moment, and the gun will fire and we'll be off. Yeah.
And if I might be so bold, and it's a question to test your memory as well.
Uh-oh.
And it's many, many years ago. I remember it well, and I remember it happening. And it made the news. And it was an Irish fella, who was at a football match.
Yeah.
And his voice got picked up in the commentary. And he was in the crowd, and he was shouting at Margaret Thatcher. And he was shouting words to the effect of, Maggie Thatcher, your boys took a hell of a beating. It was obviously England who was in a football match.
Right.
And I'll never forget that. But you could make something like that up, I suggest, for our venerable Prime Minister for the next election.
Right. Well,
And finally,
suggest a way, but asking is not necessarily getting.
No.
In conclusion...
Finally, Nick, you raised, for most of us, for me certainly, the website where you can check on your MP's voting habits.
It's called They Work.
Enough,
it's called They Work for You.
Yeah. And strangely enough, I did that this evening about 3.5 hours ago, and looked up this MP, and his voting record is literally, you went through some of it, an absolute disgrace. Now, you imagine this fella, right, if he was a random person, and he walked into a Labour Party selection meeting, hoping to be a Labour MP. His voting list and the sort of things he would...
It might work against him. Some of the things that he's voted for and against might work against him being accepted by the Labour Party,
And the point I make is this, that this is a horrible situation. I wouldn't want the guy in the Labour Party, and the only reason he is there, and people out there needed to realise this, because it really grates on my nerves, he's there because of the humiliation that serves up to Sunak and the Tory party, and it's for the bloke. It's sad. It's reached this end for him. But if there's any sort of saving of a soul, then he's doing a little bit towards that, one may suspect. But as you said, his voting record is an absolute disgrace.
Well, his voting record is pretty much is along the lines of most Tory MPs. They tend to all vote with one mind. But he's said that he's come to the conclusion that the Conservatives are not prioritising public services. He's been an MP for 14 years. And he's only now come to the conclusion that the Tories are not prioritising public services.
No, his career wasn't what he wanted it to be, Nick, after 14 years, I suspect. And you can see that, I mean, even there are even Tories who can see that this is not a Tory government, as
I've said this before. It appears the Conservative Party appears to have suffered a reverse takeover by UKIP.
Yes, absolutely.
Which is really weird that the smaller entity has taken over the larger party. And you'd have to say the Tories are one of the most successful political parties in world history. And yet they seem to have fallen apart like a cheap suit.
I think, Nick, at this late stage, the only reason that Starmer is inviting him in is because he has said he is not going to stand at the next election. How could Starmer put him in place of an actual Labour supporter and Labour perspective, a politician? He couldn't, could he? So it's simply that it's so late in the day, and it is literally the humiliation value.
Well, I wonder if Keir Starmer's voting record would get him refused. I
haven't looked. Have you looked at it?
No, I haven't.
You looked at it? Yeah.
Oh, you keep coming and going, Malcolm, like you're drifting in and out of focus.
Finally, then, I did read that Starmer said this evening if he were ever to lose his seat, he would get a job as a bookseller in a shop in a certain part of London.
What?
That would be his way out of politics.
Well, he's got his lawyering skills. Surely he'd fall back on those, wouldn't he? I mean, selling books, I don't think is where the money is.
He said he wants to own a bookshop, Nick. Yeah, look it up.
All right. Well, I certainly I won't do anything of the sort, but I appreciate the instruction. Thanks a lot, Malcolm. Okay, here's that information. Keir Starmer has revealed that he will go and work in a bookshop if he loses his seat at the next general election. The Labour leader says he's got life planned in the unlikely event he gets defeated in his constituency. So not own a bookshop, work in a bookshop. On what? On £11 an hour? I seriously doubt that. Why would he do that? What with his lawyering skills and all? Skier said, "Oh, I've already got that planned. There's a little bookshop on Kentish Town High Street, and I've always fancied working there. So if it all goes badly, you can come and see me in my bookshop, and I'll bring you your book, and I'll make you a cup of coffee." Well, he's got to get the job first, hasn't he? He hasn't passed the interview yet. What do you think you can bring to our shop, Skier? If that is indeed your name. Leave an application and we'll think about it. Thanks so much for your texts and tweets and calls and such. Anyone to... Simon says, Tory slogan, Heart of Darkness. That can't be the end one. Derek says, we're helping ourselves. Yeah, you don't have to help us. We're helping ourselves. Yeah, all right, that one. That'll do. Now, if you missed any of today's Super Show, then you can catch up on Global Player. The podcast of the show is exclusive to Global Player. It's called Nick Abbot The Whole Show Podcast. If you've got one of them stupid smart speakers, the magic phrase is play Nick Abbot The Whole Show Podcast. We take the news and the ads out. Takes less time to listen to. So you'll use less electricity, and by that method, do your bit to protect the environment. It's on Global Player, Nick Abbot, The Whole Show Podcast, 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 The Whole Show Podcast.